The Oscar goes to Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
And the Oscar will go to Charles L. Campbell and Louis Edelman for Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
And the Oscar goes to
Arthur Schmidt for Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
November 2nd, 1986. This day, a lot of important people, some of which didn't feel so important at the time, carried a heavy weight on their shoulders. But none carried heavier than the Who Framed Roger Rabbit animators. Richard Williams, director of animation, said, quote, "There wasn't much confidence they had that they were going to deliver on time," end quote. Every single person who touched this film could feel the pressure, all of which relied on the animation department. Many films, new and old, have tried to replicate the effect this movie has had, and none have come anywhere close. Movies that bring our beloved tunes to life have been around since the beginning of film, whether that's through puppetry, animation, or more commonly, CGI. And going back on older films, we can see CGI age like milk. With our current technology, you'd expect to enjoy more movies in this style, but it continues to disappoint. So many continue to prefer the simplicity of only showing the shark once, creepy claymation, or painstakingly painting a movie frame by frame. And here's this film with zero CGI, zero shortcuts, a few jokes that make you remember, oh yeah, this was the 80s, and it's aged like Paul Rudd. Captivating. So, despite our special effects limits at the time, what makes this movie continue to feel believable? Like Eddie really grabs Roger by the ears, that Baby Herman really smokes a little cigar, that Jessica really does that. Some of you might be familiar with the new Disney film Wish, that while doesn't mix live action and CGI, does mix hand-drawn and CGI, and it's been received terribly.
Another Disney flop, realization of which is your reverse direction.
It's also hated on for some other reasons.
Let you live it for free and I don't even charge you rent.
But I digress. The very company that has founded the beloved classic hand-drawn animation style continues to repeatedly disrespect itself with lazy CGI, blue screens, and overall a codependent reliance on computerized special effects. Why? Well, it's easier for starters. You think Mickey cares if Star Wars 94 is special or not? No, throw in some silly guys, a reference to the good old days, and you have a blockbuster. Now, all this isn't to say that animation is dead or CGI bad or that Disney is just corporate overlords now. In fact, a new air has been breathed into the lungs of animation recently, with Across the Spider-Verse breaking ground on what animation can truly be, using CGI, hand-drawn, and more. I've always said that the thing that makes a good movie is if you can tell if it was made by a bunch of nerds who care a lot. And that's something that movies like Roger Rabbit and Spider-Verse have in common, that make it stand apart from Space Jam 2 and Wish. But since they're attempting the same things, each with drastically different results, let's focus on Space Jam 2 and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Did you ever daydream about meeting your favorite characters as a kid? Like Patchy the Pirate searching for SpongeBob. What did you envision when you pictured them? Did you see your perfect cartoon friend doodled right into your home, picking up books and pens, tugging at your sleeve, or blowing out a candle? This is what Robert Zemeckis, the director of this film, wanted to capture. In a 42-second screen test, Robert and other overseers of the project watched with bated breath to see if their vision of mixing hand-drawn and reality could really work.
And you're not gonna get away from me again, this time, are ya?
Of course not, Eddie.
Needless to say,
and Zemeckis called me, he says, wait till you see it, he says, God, you won't believe it. And Spielberg has only seen this once in his life. He said, before, which was Star Wars. He says, and this is the second time he's seen something like it. This is film history.
They got started right away. The shooting of the film was like an Invisible Man movie, relying on Bob Hoskins especially to make Roger's presence believable. The actors were given mime classes along with rubber dolls of their cartoon scene partners, even going as far as to have voice actors be in the room and act with them.
3 years of acting school, and I'm a rabbit. Shakespeare, and I'm a rabbit.
Actors first shot with the dolls, then with nothing at all, and just prayed it would work. The interaction of tunes with actors wasn't the only obstacle, of course. To make a movie like this truly believable, the tunes must interact with their environment as often and as naturally as their human counterparts. Not only were they filmed like live-action actors, but each scene with and without the dolls were blocked as if the characters were there. If Roger went to knock something over, trip, take a drink, the crew had to figure out a way to make it as natural as possible. Now, for some scenes, such as Baby Herman waving around a cigarette, they'd have a little robot mimic this movement. But for other scenes, like the octopus bartender, they'd have to turn somewhere a bit different.
Well, originally I was asked in just to look at the octopus bartender scene. The animators didn't want to have mechanical rigs because they wanted the arms to be constantly moving and flowing. So they didn't want to have to paint out mechanical rigs. So they wanted an invisible man technique of moving all the octopus's objects around, like the shaker and the bar cloth, and pouring the martinis.
I mean, it was a surreal experience to watch the Ink and Paint Club in action without any tunes and just all these objects moving all over the place.
Every single real-world interaction is some form of practical effects, hence why they feel so raw and natural. There is no doubt in the viewer's mind that these characters are really there in the flesh. Once all filming was done, they sent photo stacks to the animation department, black and white pictures of each and every frame in the movie, which they'd sit down and sketch, ink, and paint over. And even this wasn't one sit down. They'd have to do pencil tests, get it approved, and clean up. Then it was sent to Ink and Paint, which also needed approval and cleanups. And even after all of this, it's like a transformer passing gas. Like Optimus Prime had like a bad cheesecake. And even after all of this, the animation wasn't complete.
Zemeckis wanted these characters to be very, very round, very three-dimensional. Again, this predates the computer era with round characters, and so the effects department would have to draw highlights and shadows, and each one of those levels would have to be then shot individually under the camera. So the animation cameraman would shoot Roger Rabbit all alone, Roger Rabbit as a matte where they're backlighting him, Roger Rabbit's highlights, and Roger Rabbit's shadows.
Everything needed to be done separately to achieve this balance act of 2D characters feeling 3D in a 3D world and not losing their 2D charm. In the end, with the addition of a beautiful score and editing, they ended up with a timeless classic that remains the only of its kind.
Come on, man, and welcome to the jam. Come on, man, if you want a jam.
Now, of course, I didn't watch Space Jam 2. And before you come on and slam me for that, I did watch a bunch of trailers, clips, behind the scenes, etc. Anything but the actual film. I would be afraid of hardcore Space Jam fans coming for me, but I'm not afraid of things that aren't real. The first thing from my research that really stuck out to me was this clip from the channel Spilling the Milk titled Space Jam 2 is a Cinematic Nightmare.
This, movie doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like a real movie.
Well, it's insane what they're doing because this is what the studios are just trying to do now. Is just trying to make AI movies. It predicted something that happens so, close in the future.
They noted, as many others did, that the way it's shot and the overall glossiness of it feels like an advertisement, which it practically is. Even when LeBron falls into Toonland, he falls in the shape of a Nike logo. This movie isn't a love letter to the original, and it isn't a passion project, it's marketing. And it's not even disguised marketing, it's just blatant and taggy. There's so many green screens, CGI, and unrelated but cheap laughs that it wasn't even bad enough to be funny bad, it's just unwatchable. Watching the characters interact with the real world both before and after, but especially after their CGI makeovers, which very much gives Sonic movie Nightmare version, no one is convinced they're in the room. It's soulless. And if you're thinking, well, what about the hand-drawn in the first Space Jam? Wrong! Still CGI, just different. To this day, no movie has worked as hard as Who Framed Roger Rabbit to bring our beloved tunes to life. I also feel the need to address another reason why this movie works so well. Now, there are scenes in Space Jam 2 that are impressive, still all computer, but again, I don't want my message to be CGI bad. However, I can live with my message being Space Jam 2 bad. As I said before, this entire film feels like an ad. If the Emoji Movie, Free Guy, and Ready Player One had an ugly basketball baby, this would be their demon spawn. Its attempt at jingling keys in front of video game lovers, Looney Tunes fans, and original fans of the first Space Jam all fall flat because it doesn't have any of what these fans love. Gamers are so passionate about video games because of the stories they tell or because of the fun they have playing it, not because, is that Rick and Morty? Oh my god, he did the thing! People still love Looney Tunes because when it was created at the time, it truly was a passion project. Those animators and writers loved those characters and it showed. But now, trying to profit off of that love, anything after the original that's nostalgia bait is hated on immediately, and rightfully so. The reason Roger Rabbit works so well is because it's just the love part. Roger Rabbit takes genuine inspiration from what the fans enjoy about the source material and is a love letter to hand-drawn animation and film noir, and every single person working on this film put their all to be sure it was as timeless and lovable as the cartoons that sparked it. So, sure, CGI can work. It has time and time again. And in the long run, the writing is the most important part of any movie or any story. Writers, directors, producers, actors, special effects artists, and musicians, etc. all have to put in the work to create blockbusters. And yet...
Feed me! Does it have to be mine? Feed me! Where am I supposed to get it? Feed me, Seymour.
Put it there, pal. Don't tell me you lost your sense of humor already. Does this answer your question?
These are the ones that feel the realest.
Winnie, you sure are a sight for sore eyes. What are you doing here?
Just checking in.
Well, Winnie, I know animation isn't dead, but it sure ain't thriving.
Well, here's how I see it. As long as there's people like you and me, people who care a whole lot.
Show up and not Roger. Wouldn't he make more sense?
Oh, I'm actually public domain.
Really?
Yeah, they made a slasher.
Well, here's to change.
Hello, everybody. We are downtown today. Filming for my stupid little video. I have my dad's like nice blazer that he wears to weddings and stuff, and a little bowler hat and a tie. And I've never felt dumber, and it's never been windier. Caitlin has been my wonderful camera girl, and she drove us downtown today. So everybody, thank you to Caitlin for this. And soon we'll be having our own YouTube channel where you guys can watch us do all of this stuff all the time. So that'll be fun. Can you back up a little bit? Like, get a slow shot of you coming out, start back again, and then slowly back up. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's like a slow, like, kind of.
Okay.
There are people coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's embarrassing.
Pretending like I'm normal. Okay. Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Around here. In front of it, like close up to the trash can. Okay. I don't know what that is. Now we're going shopping because that was exhausting. Shopping haul. Shopping haul.